On Paramount Boulevard, 2900 Paramount. These beautiful urns is what Nancy gave us. Someday I suppose they'll be his. Come on in the front door. See this beautiful iron grillwork? Welcome home. These are urns that I made in ceramics class. Come on in. And you can see our beautiful orientals that Daddy and I have collected through the years. And first of all, we can come over here. Now this is an antique piece which came out of Corning from Aunt Ruth's house. And this is as you can see, an umbrella stand, and that came out of Corning also, out of Granddaddy's, out of his grandfather's house, his mother's house, that is, his mother's father's house. And it has several of these antique canes in here, you can see. We did have a sword cane even, but somehow that disappeared.
How old is all that stuff now?
Oh, it has to be 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have...
This is for the children, so we're concerned about age and origin and value.
Well, I couldn't tell you about value, but here's a gold-handled umbrella that belonged to Daddy's mother.
Is that real gold?
Yeah, it's supposed to be. And of course, all these things, they're at least 100 years old, probably. This is a beautiful frame which we picked up, we just liked, and we got this painting at an antique place which they redid for us. They took off, they were just cleaning it for us and discovered there was this original painting under it, and we like it because it looks like my grandmother. These are two beautiful chairs, antiques. I looked these up in the library once, and these are Charles II's chairs. These are about 250 or 300 years old. They were from Corning also. And this painting is one that I did of St. Madeline and Sophie, the founders of the Order of the Sacred Heart. And
when was that done, Mom?
I did this about 25 years ago, I guess. 30 years ago, maybe. And
1950s.
Somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I did this for the alumni of the Sacred Heart, of which I am a member. And the alumni don't have a home, so I always, I've just kept it here. They asked me just to keep it in my own home. And then one time, some time ago, I took it down to the bishop, Bishop Begin, who used to be the pastor of St. Agnes Church in Cleveland. And I took it down to him because I thought he might like to keep it there because his patron, as when he became bishop, was St. Madeline and Sophie. But he said he didn't want to do that, or didn't want to deprive me of it. And he told me at that time something which has thrilled me completely from that time to this. He said, "You must have a beautiful soul," when he saw that painting. So I was really, you can imagine how I felt about that. So this is a painting that we just picked up at an antique shop, but it looks like an original master, although that's what we think, but we don't know what the art museum thinks. This is a baptismal font, which is about 300 years old. Came out of a church in Italy. It has a release here somewhere. This is supposed to open up so you can baptize the baby, but I can't seem to release it now. Anyway, you can see this is all gold underneath, and it has a basin of copper or brass inside. And this, I just want to make note of this because this was given to me by a friend who has died. And this clock has to be 150 years old too, because it's one that Granddaddy's father picked up one time years ago as an antique, and has a beautiful bonging sound when it's running, but
I don't think I've ever heard that bong.
well, we haven't heard it because what happened is that our little children have taken the insides out of it from time to time, and so we decided just to put them up for safekeeping upstairs. So
How old is that clock?
that's probably about 200 years old. That's well, that might be more like 150, I guess. It's more of the time of the early 1800s. And these are just some interesting pieces I picked up. These are from Spain. These are for traveling. This is a traveling bottle that they hung on the, this top comes off. They're both Spanish. This is what the travelers used.
It's a Spanish flask.
Yes, just for water, and that's for whatever. And well, this happens to be a little antique book. We have a lot of antique books you might want to cover. This one belonged to, most of these came out of Corning. It's a little Bible and prayer book. And we have some very beautiful books if you want to take a little closer look at this.
Oh, too close, too close. I can zoom in on it here.
See, it locks there like that.
Oh yeah.
And of course, this is a little ceramic piece that Churchill Lynch made. She made the basic part of it, and then I painted it. So it's our joint effort. This is a ceramic piece that I made, 14 karat gold. Just don't rub it. And this is a mirror that Daddy and I picked up because we just liked an Oriental. I think it was about one of our first Oriental pieces. This piece over here, which as you can see is being used all the time. This is Daddy's Western hat. Yay, cowboy. This piece also came from Corning, but that came from Aunt Ruth's house, and this came from the Troll home. Troll is the name of Daddy's mother, his mother's maiden name, and the name which Bob has for his middle name. It's a little hog piece, and see, these pieces are supposed to be out like this, but they're loose, and they're for umbrellas. See, they have little drip pans down there for wet umbrellas. Very interesting piece. You don't often see that sort of thing. And
can you tell us a little more about the rugs?
well, I can't tell you much about the rugs. I mean, there's not much really history to them. We picked this one up down in Florida. We went to one of those auction houses, of which there are many down there. And this rug, I can't remember what kind it is, but it's a good rug, but it's not among the best. Like, this is a very good rug. This is a I can't think of the names. Daddy ought to be here. But this is one of the best kind. But we picked this up here in the Cleveland area. And let's see now. This little runner we picked up here in the Cleveland area too. Now we can go into the living room. And we have this ramp here, of course, for Bob, who's in a wheelchair. This is, I'll just start over here. This is a little antique chair I just picked up at a local store, but it's this is about 1800, or it has inlaid mother of pearl. And you can see and it still has the original seat, which I guess I'm just going to have to give up on one day, but it's petite point, and it's a very beautiful figure there of a man and a woman, very artistic. I guess I'm just going to have to give up on it. And this is Chinese, and Chinese is rosewood, very lovely carving, which I picked up at an antique shop.
You don't know how to do this.
And this beautiful hanging is, it's not like the Bayeux tapestry, but it's a very fine tapestry.
Yeah.
And probably,
You lost people.
that's probably about 300 years old, maybe 400. Came from Europe, from France. And the design on it is a recognized design. It's, you look up tapestries and you see, well, this is the design that's recognized.
This is.
And the picture.
Yep.
And
you can play for money.
it's supposed to be the princess with her lady in waiting and her pets, and she's in the forest.
Stop.
And the reason we have this is because the doctor who saved Joni's life when we first came to Cleveland, Dr. Champion,
18 and win. No, you get to win another
he
one.
later, a few years later, moved his office
16.
from downtown. And in his office, he had this tapestry hanging, and he told me he wanted me to have it. He says, "You're the only one I know who has ceilings high enough to take it." So we were the happy recipients
doing?
of this tapestry. Now coming back over here,
Where did my mom go shopping? What she did?
we have this old German clock, which we just picked up at a house sale. This has a beautiful bonging tone too. And over here we have several family Bibles, which are very, not only beautiful, but they're like historic. They've been in the family for several hundred years, especially this big one.
Stop.
This is just a contemporary thing. They look old. And, but you'd be interested to know that we got it from the Prestes.
19.
That's Charlie Presti of Presti's Bakery.
His mother and father were breaking up housekeeping, so we went over there and got that. This lamp here, this chair is anything particular. It's just a chair that I like. This lamp was given to us by Sophie Thorman, who was an old and dear friend. And this table is just something, part of our regular furniture we picked up. Let's see. This couch is just a couch that we picked up. But to go back to the rugs, these are all very fine rugs. And
Oh, thank goodness.
Karastan, that's the name of that rug out there. I think the one that's very fine. And then these are, I really can't remember what they are, but they are very good rugs. And we've just picked these all up since we've been in Cleveland.
Hit me.
This is a very fine Chinese piece, which, believe it or not, I picked up at a house sale, but they're getting rid of it. This has the story of the Chinese, the old Chinese priests who would tell stories, and he's supposed to be there telling a story. And this is a little antique cassock I picked up. This table has a marble top, as you can see. This came from Corning, also from Daddy's mother's house.
It's perfect and off.
So this is about 150 years old.
119.
It was one of those things that they wore been in the family for a couple of generations. And this is something I picked up as Chinese closet. This lamp is quite nice. If you can come in and see this closet here, up and down with alabaster. And the rest of it is brass. And we kind of have a favorite spot, a spot in our hearts for this because this is our first antique. When Daddy and I were first married, we were living in an apartment which was in Washington, D.C. And we used to live down on Connecticut Avenue, which is just a few blocks up from the White House, as a matter of fact, our apartment was. And so we would often walk downtown to the main drag in Washington, which is, we'd go past the White House, but we'd also go past these various shops, and one is this antique shop, and we went by this antique shop almost every day. And we kept seeing this little lamp in the window. Well, when we first got it, it had another whole section up here like this, which had a filigree work in brass, which enclosed an oil can, because it was originally an oil lamp. It came up to about here. So, but the oil part of it was kind of awkward looking, so I took that part off and made it into this lamp. And you can see this is all done by just pounding holes into the brass. So this is one of our favorites. Oh, I must tell you about this painting over here, which it's not that the painting is so marvelous. I mean, because I did this painting many, many years ago of our Lord, and we just recently, though, had our house sanctified, you could say, because the priest came over, Father Lang, and we did what we call the enthronement of the Sacred Heart. So we used this picture of our Lord. So this picture has been blessed. It's very special. It should be handled very carefully and treated very well. So back over here, this is the Chippendale chair, original Chippendale chair, which was in my father's mother's house. And so this is about 300 years old. And this is a typical Chippendale, you see. All this, these legs and the feet, the claws. And it was very, very much cherished by my grandmother, my father's mother. Her name was Mary Catherine Beekman, and she married John C. Churchill, and they were the parents of my father, John W. Churchill. So anyway, when my grandmother died, my grandfather had died some years before. My grandmother died, and so they took everything out of the house, and she had a lot of beautiful things, including this Chippendale chair, which I was lucky enough to end up with. This grand piano, which is pretty well covered at the moment, but it's a beautiful piano which my father, John W. Churchill, bought in Washington, D.C. It's a Steinway, and very valuable instrument. And we're very, very fortunate to have it. This painting I did of the Blessed Virgin, the Assumption, of course, and this one I did also. I call that Mother with Sorrowful Heart. And this is just an incidental chair we picked up. It's not an old chair, it's just a style we like. This piece we like particularly well because it came from Korea. A friend of ours years ago his name is Don Peterson. And years ago he went to Korea and picked up a lot of this beautiful carved teak furniture, as well as this little piece, which is actually rosewood, and brought it back to us. And he also brought back this piece, which is an actual authentic piece from an ancient temple. It's covered with gold, and it used to have a lot of like little jewels all over it, but they were mostly gone when we got it. But this is an authentic piece. It's very heavy, and there's a ring on the back of it. Maybe you can see it, two little rings. And the reason it has those rings I don't know if you can see them or not. There's one there, one there, and one there.
Yep.
And the reason they had those rings is because they would, people who were the faithful, the devout followers of Confucius or of Buddha, they would make these and they put the rings on the back of them because they had these tall poles which would be going from the floor up to the ceiling way high of a temple. That's the way they used to do their work. And at the bottom there would be quite a large one like this, and then the next one would be a little smaller going up the pole. And they put these rings on the back so you could attach them to the pole so that they'd have sort of a pyramid of these little statues going up there. And this was just about at the top.
That's good stuff, Bob.
Yes, it is. These are chairs from Corny, from Daddy's mother's house in Corny. These are very, very fine furniture. They're, I suppose these are about 250 years old. These are, no, these are about 200 years old. These are early 1800s. This mirror is one that Daddy's father had picked up some years ago, and it was just it didn't have this edge on it, so we had this edge put on it, the black and the gold. And it's very handsome.
And you put that in a frame?
Yeah, it had a frame just from here to here, see? But we put another frame around it to kind of dress it up. And this is from a house sale, but it is a very fine antique also, the early 1800s.
That's the table.
The table is, yes. This little lamp is just a very nice alabaster, but we just picked it up somewhere, I don't know where. But this is a little souvenir of my trip to Rome. I stayed at the Hotel Hassler in Rome, which is supposed to be the best hotel there is. One of those featured as world-class hotels. And see, it says on it, Hotel Hassler, Villa Medici, Roma. So I didn't steal it. I went to the desk clerk before I left and asked him if I could buy one of these. And he says, "You don't need to buy it, just take it." So that was nice. And let's see. Then over here is the big main piece of everything, I guess you could say, because it's absolutely irreplaceable, and we're very, very proud of it. This is the chair that George Washington sat in. This is a little ladder back chair, which was one of, I guess, about 8 chairs which were placed around the dining room table of the dining room, where our ancestor, Captain Churchill Lynch, had the meeting of the first Congress of the United States. And so as the gentlemen of the Congress came in, George Washington, of course, came in with them, and he sat down on this little chair around the dining room table. And you can see it's quite small, so George Washington must have...
Now, do we know for a fact that George sat in that particular dining room chair? No,
I don't have any writing on it, but this is family tradition which has been handed down. My grandmother first told me of this chair.
Yes, but was that at the head of the table, and that's where George sat? Is that how we know he sat in that particular chair, as opposed to one of the others in the
I
set?
don't know where it was placed as far as the table was concerned.
This is the interrogation part now.
But
Which
this,
grandmother, Mom? Which grandmother?
my grandmother, Mary Catherine Beekman Churchill, of whom I mentioned before, my father's mother.
Who lived?
And my father's mother, you see, was the grandchild of Churchill Beekman, who was on the staff of George Washington, and therefore was an officer on his staff. He was a captain, and he was therefore a member of the Society of the Cincinnatus, which was a very prestigious society, which whose members, they still exist. That is, the organization still exists, but membership can only be had in it through the male line. Therefore, since it was my grandmother who is the descendant of this particular member, I can't belong to the Society of Cincinnati. But I was thinking of writing them to see if they might change that in view of all kinds of women's ideas going around. But at any rate, we're very, very proud. We're thrilled to have this chair.
Can you see it all right?
Mm-hmm.
And now here's another piece which is extraordinary. This came from Daddy's side of the family, his Aunt Ruth, the wife of his mother's brother named Art Kroll. Remember, the family name of his mother was Troll, T-R-O-L-L. And her brother married Ruth Adams. And Ruth Adams is a direct descendant of John Adams, the President of the United States. And this mirror was in the White House, belonged to them when they were in the White House. If you were to come a little bit closer, you can see the design is typical of those colonial times.
I can zoom right in on it, so it's no problem. This actually hung in the White House?
Oh, in the White House.
In what years would that have been?
Well, John Adams, that was late 1700s, early 1800s.
Well, was that before the White House was built? It hung in the president's residence,
It
but
was in the White House.
was that the White House at the time, or was that?
Yeah, it was.
I thought the White House wasn't built until.
Well, it was rebuilt after it was burned. This was before that, when they first.
Before the
When
British
they first had a White House
in Washington D.C.
in Washington D.C.
Before it was burned by the who was it that burned? The British burned it.
British burned it. War of 1812. This was in there before.
So this was before the War of 1812. Right?
I think so. I haven't checked those dates exactly. Anyway, it was John Adams. Over here, we have a Chinese piece, very similar to our other piece over there from Korea. But this has a marble top, and it's just a piece I picked up from a friend, but it's very, very beautiful. There's all this carving to see here. So we like that very well. Here's another antique piece,
Red Doll's #1.
which has been in the family, and it matches these chairs I just showed you over there. This piece, again, is early 1800s. Very typical of the time with this boat bag. And this piece was in Daddy's mother's house in Corning, New York. This piece is a copy, but it's a piece we like very well. These two food dogs are just, they came from China, but just in recent times. And Daddy for years had been saying that he would like to have some food dogs in front of the fireplace. So I just happened to find these, and there they are. Let's see, to where? Over here, we have some very nice pieces of
She thinks that
China. These are English pieces, or German pieces. And I got these from our friends the Bensons who live next door to us. And
It is. I put
Denver Broncos Stadium.
Peggy gave me those pieces there.
500
So of course we cherish those. And this is just
16 years. Really?
I think Daddy found this in a clock shop. He put this out. This is another piece that I picked from the Bensons next door. This is a piece which has been blessed by the Pope. My friend Jackie Griner, who is David's guidance, says, how much to Rome, and he had this piece but it's blessed by the Pope.
80,000, maybe 81,000.
This is an antique dish here.
I like poison.
I think this is Leo 13. I just happened to find it somewhere, and it's, I like to have the pictures of the Pope, so I bought it.
Dance tennis.
These two pieces were made by Joni, so I put them there.
No,
And
there's no rhythm to it.
this was
Yeah,
a little
and when there's no...
infant of Prague that was given to us by March Joan on the occasion of Joni's baptism.
Like you hear of...
And these little candlesticks, can you see them?
Now you can dance to that.
These came from Corning also. They had all kinds of these little old-fashioned things. So I put those there.
But like...
And this is a precious picture of Bob as a baby, which we have here.
Don't run it.
But he
Don't
still,
run this
but he
tape.
still had his curls. That's why I love it.
We'll erase that later. When do I get to do something that has...
And this is a picture photograph of Gran, my father. Here's a baby. And it's not a regular photograph. It's a photograph is done on glass, which is a very rare sort of thing.
Yeah, hold it up, man.
So you can,
No, no, that's too close.
I want to show you, you can see through it.
No,
See,
okay.
because it's done on glass. Can you see
What do you
that?
think?
See my hand behind it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So this is a very special thing, and should be taken care of. And it's an excellent picture of my father, besides that, John W. Churchill. And this is a little tiny, I have several of these little things like this, came from Corning, from Daddy's mother's house, all little old-fashioned things, which are really precious. This is a piece of special glass. It's a dolphin, as you can see. I got it at an antique shop, but it's, now I can't think of the name of it. It's from Italy. It's an Italian glass, which I'll think of maybe as I go along. But it's very special glass. That's an old piece, too. This piece is very special because it's even written up in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, because it's a sandwich glass. This is also a dolphin. And it's very rare, and the only time you see original pieces, this is an original piece. The only time you find an original piece is in a museum. But this was in the hands of, again, Aunt Ruth, who was Ruth Adams, and she married Daddy's mother's brother, Brother Art. So
Is that a candlestick?
it's a candlestick, right? Put a candle in it. And it's a very special piece and should be taken care of very carefully, very rare.
I don't know.
And these are very, very special vases given to me by a friend, Joan Davis, Joanne Davis, who I was very friendly with when she was here. She doesn't live here anymore. But they had belonged to her grandmother. They're very beautiful, special antique vases. They're about 200 years old too, I guess. And I'm not just sure what kind they are. They may be Sevres, but I'm not sure.
Now that was
And
big.
this painting, of course, I did. It's of Columbus arriving in the New World. And when Columbus arrived at the islands, they first sighted land. It was very dark at midnight, black of night. And so they didn't know what the shoreline was like, couldn't see where to land or anything, so they decided, they were coming in, of course, from the east. So they decided that they would just spend the night going around the island. And so by the time dawn came, you could see the dawn coming up there in the east. They were on the west side of the island. And of course you can see a few little figures starting to come out from the trees and jungle there to see these big ships, birds they call them. So that's the Santa Maria, the Nina, and the Pinta. And that frame I have to tell you about too is was given to me by a very dear friend who's died now, Peggy Boland, a very dear friend of mine. And in fact, she was one of our children's godmother. And in fact, I think she was Joni's no. She was one of our children's godmother. It might have been, let's see, who was it? It might have been, no, I know what it was. Her husband we had as godfather, and it was maybe 3 or 4 years after that, so she was a very lovely person. She was also a Sacred Heart, that's how I came to know her. And let's see. Well, over here is part of the same set of chairs from the house in Corning. It was the home of Daddy's mother, of course, the Troll home. These are all early 1800s chairs. This is the grandfather chair, of course, and this is, they're called Victorian. They say this is early Victorian, and then we have late Victorian right there. And this is the grandmother chair. So this is a Chinese vase, which is an antique and very valuable, which I bought about 30 years ago, I guess, from a man who was just selling it out of his home right here in Cleveland Heights. And so it doesn't have any story behind it other than that, but it is a very valuable piece. These are somebody's socks. They leave those around quite often. And here, this little chair is also from Corning. This came from Aunt Ruth's house. We had, these little chairs are all original. These are late 1800, which makes them Victorian, the same era as this mirror. This mirror also came from Aunt Ruth's house too. And Aunt Ruth had all this furniture in her family. As you recall, she had her the Adams mirror from her great-grandfather, John Adams, the president. And then she had this from her grandmother, as well as this chair, and these chairs. And these chairs, see, all originally had caning in them, but through the years, of course, the caning inevitably gets holes in it and gets ruined, falls out. So I just had this tapestry put on. But it's, they are very, very valuable chairs and also very precious to us because they belong to the family. So this is a piece which I got at a white elephant sale. The very famous white elephant sale is held in Cleveland every 3 years. Used to be, now recently it's started to be every year. But I bought this, probably 30 years ago, because if you come in close a little bit, it shows Columbus presenting his case to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand at their court. And this is, I don't know who this is, but see, he has the globe there, and he's explaining about what he wants to do. And this piece I was thrilled to get because, of course, it is quite an old piece. This is about the same vintage as this piece. These are later Victorian. And this is all inlaid wood. It's very, very beautiful, really exquisite work. And it came from a family in Cleveland who had done a lot of picking up of these sorts of things. And they said it was a museum piece at the time, and so it's still a very, really exquisite piece. Let's see, now over here we have a table which we got from our neighbors. Oh no, not this one. This is from Daddy's mother's house. When she was married, this was a wedding present. So that's about 150 years old, I guess. It would be 100 years old, I guess. As well as this lamp. This is one of their wedding gifts also. And this little thing is a little old-fashioned thing from Victorian times too. And it's a little jewel box. And came from their house too. Lots of these things came from Corning, you see. This is a little thing I picked up somewhere, I don't know, but they're all little special things that I pick up from time to time, and I don't want anybody to sell any of them. I'll come back and haunt you if you try anything like that. And this little piece is something I bought down in Washington, D.C. I just couldn't resist it. It's a little family of birds with their first little baby. And these little oriental pieces I just picked up at a local oriental shop. They're so pretty. Some things, you go, you just can't resist. And so this is my oriental corner here.
Some might say that applies to most things.
And this is just a silk tapestry. And this is over here. These are tiles, you see, which are painted, Chinese painted. And this one also. And this up here is done by my former ceramics teacher. And that's done on glass, painted on glass, so it's a unique piece. And so I bought it from her. And in here, I have all kinds of pieces. Good job,
I'm not going to sit in one of the antique chairs while Mom tells me about all this stuff.
He's getting tired. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
This is from a Chinese dynasty.
Hold on to the lamp, would probably get the
I
best.
don't remember the dynasties, but I got it from a friend of mine. Who's an antique.
Girls, shh.
He's an antique dealer in New York City. His name was Pelham. And we met him in Florida. It was quite strange, and struck up a friendship. And so later, when we went to New York, we went to visit him at his place of business. He had a huge place, about 3 stories tall in New York City there in the antiques district. And so he gave me this little piece, which is from a dynasty. See, you can see all the colors in it. I have dark blue, pale, sort of an aqua, and a little golden and green. And it's really unusual. As a matter of fact, I have some things but you see, look at the similarity of those headdresses. See that?
Mm-hmm.
And see the original pieces have little jewels in the ears. Can you see those little holes there? And that's just the way these little pieces. Now, I'll bring these out. These little pieces are from, of course, they were originally, I think they were supposed to be on wooden statues. Can you see them?
Yes, I remember those. You've had those a long time.
And these,
I remember that tin
believe it
foil.
or not, we found these in our former home, in our first home in Cleveland, the home from which we came to this house, which was, when we bought it, was owned by the White sewing machine people, or White Machine Company. And
The Norfolk Road house was owned by the White sewing machine people?
yes,
Oh.
and that, when you say white, I have to tell you another story for just a minute. I just want to show you. See these little pieces?
Mm-hmm.
And see, they were inserted in this wooden body and kept in by pegs of some kind. But isn't that interesting? Look at that hairdo and everything. But you can see it's the same vintage, you see.
Mm-hmm. Same kind of hairpiece.
Uh-huh. And the same treatment of the ears, the little holes where they had the jewels and so forth. So we've always been really tickled by these. And this one, see how this one is? It has a big smile on his face. Isn't that cute? So, as I said, we found these, I forget what part of the house they were in, but in the White House. Now, when we moved into that house on Norfolk Road, the people who owned it, name was White. Well, the funny part was that when we were back down in Bethesda, we moved up here to Cleveland from Bethesda, Maryland, which is one of the suburbs of Washington, D.C., like Cleveland Heights is a suburb of Cleveland. So when we moved to our house in Bethesda from our original first house, which was in Riverdale, Maryland, which is another suburb of Washington, but we outgrew the house in Riverdale, so we moved to Bethesda. And by that time, you see, we had four children. We had Mary Kay and Peggy and Jimmy, and Bobby was 4 months old. And so we needed more space. We had a lovely little house in Riverdale, but there's a house that Grant helped us buy, incidentally. We had an acre of ground and a beautiful expanse of just fields on one side because we were on the edge of town. But the house did get too small for us, and so we moved to Bethesda, to this much larger house. And so when I moved in, I said, I'm not going to move out of here unless I move into the White House. So lo and behold, what happens? Daddy gets transferred to Cleveland, and so he finds us a house that's, who owns it but the White people. So I thought, well, that's a good omen. Now, why don't I just say again, I'm not going to move out of here until I move into the White House. So, of course, now we're here living in this house on Fairmount, a few blocks away from our original house on Norfolk Road. And, of course, this house is a creamy white. So, again, I just had to say, well, I'm not going to move out of here unless I move into the White House. Well, of course, I didn't really expect to move into the White House, but of course we do have a piece of furniture for the White House, that mirror over there. And then, of course, there's a real remote possibility that it could happen if I could live for about 20 more years. And because our son David is the mayor of a suburb of Cleveland, Euclid, and we have told him, well, we think you ought to try for the presidency. Of course, he told me the other day, I don't think I'll try for the presidency because it takes too much time for my family. Well, you know, the state of the world and what happens, so who knows what's going to happen. Well, anyway, that's just the atmosphere concerning the word white and White House. So I'm going to put these, we'll take something out first. This came from the, oh, I didn't realize the split's getting dry. This is from Arabia. It's all inlaid ivory and mother of pearl. It came from the museum down, the Smithsonian Museum down in Washington, D.C. And they had a shop there where they were just selling different artifacts that they brought back. And this has sheepskin, that's sheepskin right there. And so I thought it was unique, and so I bought that. And this is a very valuable piece that came from Corning also, from Ruth Adams' house, because in Corning they have the
Hold into the light.
they have the Corning Glass Works. But this is a very special piece, unique and very valuable because it's a paperweight, it's all solid glass, and they made the designs inside the glass.
Is the inside part glass too?
Oh, the whole thing is glass.
So it's a glass flower inside?
Oh yeah, it's all glass.
How did they do that?
I don't know. That's why it's so valuable. It's totally glass. So you want to always be careful of this. Don't let anything happen to it. And I keep it in here because it's one of the special things. February is my birthday, and my birthstone is amethyst. So this happened to be for sale down in Higby's department store some 35 years ago, and it's a natural amethyst. See the crystals? That's the outside of it, kind of green, but isn't that interesting? I just picked that up, it's just kind of special. And these are stones from, where are they? Oh, first I have to show you. This is a brick, an ancient Roman brick, a piece of brick from from the walls of Rome. It was just lying on the ground outside the walls. And so I just picked it up. It's reddish, as you can see. And you can see they're much smaller. The bricks were small. See how it is? They were only that thick, and see that thick, and they only came out to about here. So all the ancient walls of Rome were made of these reddish, rosy-colored bricks. This stone, you know, I should have put labels on all these things a long time ago.
You're right about that.
But these are here for some special reason. I can't remember.
Wasn't one of those a cannonball from the Civil War or something? That's what I seem to remember.
Yeah, I have that. It's a mining ball. I have it somewhere. See, this, I believe, is from. These stones might be from Medjugorje, where I visited about 3 years ago. And this stone is probably also from there. So the Blessed Virgin appeared and is still appearing in Medjugorje. She started about almost 6 years ago now, appearing to these young visionaries. And she's telling the world to do penance and pray more, fast Wednesdays and Fridays on bread and water, and just try to be better than we have been for the sake of peace in the world. This is a little, it's a copy, but I picked it up down in a little village. It was a colonial village where, down here in Ohio, where they had made friends with the Indians years ago, and this was one of the little Indian gods, so I'm always interested in things like that, so you can see. I forget what his name is. Let's see. Oh, this is, somebody brought me this from Africa. I can't remember who. And these are some very pretty Chinese chopsticks, but very fancy. They're inlaid with mother of pearl. Can you see them? Mm-hmm. So you eat them like this, I think, something like that. And I have several more pairs here. Here's a little shorter one, but in red. See, isn't that pretty? Mm-hmm. And I have several of these little, these came from China, but these are modern productions. I think it was Jeff and Annie maybe who gave me these some years ago. And then in here, I have some little remnants of dolls. These are little dolls which had, little old-fashioned dolls which came from Corning too, and they were the ones that Daddy's mother and her sisters had played with, little bisque and don't know what this is, but anyway, to the hair. And these are different little dolls of countries. This is India that I've just picked up from time to time. They're so interesting. Indian. That is East Indian, you say. And these are little nationality dolls, which I can't even remember. It's a little bisque doll. And these are Chinese, and that's, I don't know what that is, Czechoslovakian. Here's some little interesting pieces, which all came from Corning from Daddy's mother's house. They're little old-fashioned dishes that the ladies used to use for this or that, just whatever. But they're very, very interesting little pieces, and of course they're probably 150 years old too. Very nice little things. And here's another little piece. Let's see.
It looks like a little bud vase.
It could be anything. I don't know what they used them for. Let's see. Can't tell what that says there. I should have my magnifying glass to read it. And here's a little tiny mortar and pestle, also from the same house, just a little tiny thing. I don't know what they did with this, except I think that they maybe ground up pills, you know, at home they would do that. See how pretty the design is. And here's an egg from someplace, I don't know where. This is one of those Chinese things. But they used to do this with egg, you know, it's a marble egg. And here's another little piece. It's kind of injured, but. And this is a piece of doll from China, which a friend of mine, Ann Nash, gave me a long time ago. I did a painting of her daughter, I think it was, and so she gave me this as a remembrance. And this, I think this came from Corning. I'm not just sure, but it's just a little fantasy piece. I think this is, let's see. It says Germany. And several of these pieces. Here's another of these little Chinese pieces, China pieces, which came from Corning. And I have this picture in here, so I didn't want anything to happen to it, but this is Mary Kay, and this is Peggy. And this hand over here is my mother's hand. But this was on the front steps of our house in Riverdale, that first house I was telling you about. So I just wanted you to be sure to see that. Mm-hmm. And let's see, here's some more of those little, believe it or not, this is a little Chinese piece. You'd think it's for something, for food or something. This came from Corning too. But the ladies had a lot of hair in those days, you know, back in the 1890s and so forth. And so when their combs and brushes got full of hair, they put them in here. And they'd collect the hair there. Then they'd use the hair to stuff a pillow or something, these little tiny decorative pillows. So it was kind of...
So that's the China hair box?
Yeah, that's really what it is. And these are tintypes. You've heard of tintypes. And they fold up like that, see? And they each have a cover. I think covers in another room right now. I have a little thing to catch them with. But these are of the people of Ruth Adams. And I really don't know who they are unless they're maybe of Ruth Adams herself when she was a little tiny girl. I think it's more likely it's her mother. But can you see the shine on?
Mm-hmm.
So those are very special because they're family pictures. And this curio cabinet, incidentally, is one that ago maybe. And I had always wanted a cabinet to put all these little things in for safekeeping and for display. So here's another little old-fashioned picture. This one, I believe, is of, this is from Corning. And I think this is of Ruth Adams' brother when he was a baby. You see, it's a very old-fashioned picture. And here's an interesting little picture. I don't know who these little types are, but what's interesting about this is a family picture too. I just don't know who the children are in here. But this is a celluloid frame, which is before plastic came along, there was celluloid. And so they used to make frames and all sorts of things out of celluloid. So that's interesting in itself in that. And here's a cute little picture of Daddy when he was a little boy. He was about 3. And the funny part is that when I was about 3, I had a picture almost exactly like that. Same haircut, same kind of rompers and all that sort of thing.
Turn that towards the camera a little. Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So John Kennedy Lynch, Jr., actually the 3rd, when he was 3. And I have this in here because this is a little toy dog, as you can see. It's on wheels. And this belonged to your daddy, John Kennedy Lynch, the 3rd. And he used to pull it along. It had a collar around it, and he'd pull it along like that, and it would just roll right along. Those little wheels still go around pretty well. So that's what he used to play with. Isn't that cute? And oops.
Tragedy
There's so many things
taking
in
place before our eyes here.
I like to collect spoons, so this little spoon came from somewhere. I don't remember where. And let's see. Oh, this is a little thing. The top is gone, but a little milk glass has a name for this. I forget what they call it. But anyway, this came from Corning too. It's a little antique glass. And let's see. Well, I got some of these things. They're so pretty. From a Chinese store. This is modern Chinese, but this is what they use to rest their chopsticks in or to eat soup with. See, they have Chinese symbols and things on the back. They're so pretty that I got them just for decoration, of course. And this has an Indian head penny in it. It's a little souvenir of. Matthew, why don't you turn that off for a minute while I go get my magnifying glass, because some of these things.